Good morning, Revolution, everyone, and welcome to our show this week. My name is Taryn, and I will be hosting. We are thrilled to have Comrade Bizad with us this week from the Tudeh Party, joined by Henry Lohendorf from the Peace and Solidarity Commission and Ben Bath. We really appreciate our Comrade Bizad taking the time, which must be a really busy time for you, a very stressful time for you, to talk about a really important subject to our audience today, which is MAGA, Zionism, and imperialist war. There's just been so much going on in the news. And so we really are quite honored to be able to hear from you directly. This is one of the benefits of the international communist movement, is that we have comrades in all sorts of different struggles in countries across the world, and we can come to you directly to hear exactly what it is that's going on. Thank you so much to the audience for joining us. Please remember that you can like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also join us via Facebook, Twitter/X, and I believe Twitch. And so thank you again, Comrade Bizad, for joining us. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, comrades, for having me.
So we want to jump right in because we understand that you can't be with us for the entire show. And we're just wondering, first of all, we're sending you and your loved ones all solidarity. We hope that you are well and that your loved ones are well. But we were wondering if you could tell us specifically, what is the situation like on the ground right now in Iran? Because I understand, I was reading the news this morning that there is an internet blackout that's occasional. And so it might be hard to get word in and out. But I assume that you've got the latest update of what's happening there on the ground, if you could share with us.
Sure. Based on basically people, the first thing is that people help each other a lot. Saying that even though the situation is dangerous, everybody's under stress because of the war. But for example, in Tehran, the reports from comrades and friends, relatives, is that they can access, for example, they can access grocery shops, they can access gas station. Gas station is long, but people can actually put 25 liters of gas on their cars, but it moves very fast. People help each other. People actually offers basically helping each other and giving their accommodations, houses for them. Many people actually left Tehran to the other cities, to the north, to the other cities as well, and people are over there are also very basically very caregiving, and they offer their homes. The doors are open for them to be able to stay for them, and it is basically internal solidarity. It is nothing to do with the government, but overall people helping each other and trying to basically pass this situation. As you know, the organizations, workers, unions, lawyers association, writers associations, every progressive organizations denounce the aggression against Iran, the military action of Israel and terror attacks of Israel. They denounce that, and they want ceasefire now. That is their most and important basically agenda right now. So they don't want any interference. They know that war doesn't bring freedom, democracy. They want to deal with the corruption, basically the anti-democratic and theocratic regime after, obviously, after the war. They don't want any interference because they know that the imperialist war isn't going to bring freedom and democracy for people, like as we saw in the other countries as well. The internet, it is what I know is that, for example, we could be able to contact with our friends through landlines for basically cybersecurity attacks and checking actually the locations. They are saying that, for example, they are basically disconnecting internet, especially certain social medias as well. How much it is the truth, we don't know, but the thing is that the landlines are open, and we could be able to communicate through landlines with our friends and relatives, and yeah.
Well, it's really good, what you're telling us about this solidarity that you're seeing between neighbors and between people. That's really important because we know that one of the reasons why, this kind of onslaught, this kind of attack would happen is because the United States and Israel would think that this would somehow fracture Iranian society. But it sounds from what you're saying that this has actually sort of brought people into a more unified position. Would you agree?
I totally agree, but obviously, working class people are suffering from this at the most. They lost works. Some of the, for example, factories, industry, or businesses are closed because of the war, because of the bombardment, and people left without paying actually their salaries, and especially based on the austerity and based on the neoliberal policies, most of the working class people are not having a basically permanent positions. They are contractors. They are working mostly through the recruiters and second-hand companies as well, and they take advantage of those. So, what I am talking about, as you mentioned, the solidarity between people, but the ruling class actually they try to take benefit of this war as much as they can, and there is no support from the government to those workers which lost basically their job because of the situation. They are in very tough situation, and obviously from that point of view people are helping them, and that is the way that people tries to gives their solidarity towards each other.
Thank you. I know that here in the United States, and I'm sure in most parts of the world, all eyes have been on Gaza and on what's going on right now in Palestine with the genocidal war against the Palestinian people. And so this sort of seemed to come out of left field for a lot of people, and as I understand it, Iran was already involved in negotiations at this point. And so this seemed to come out of nowhere. How is it that you think this sudden attack, this sudden brutal, illegal attack happened from Israel? What do you think sort of set it off? What are the causes you think might be behind it?
Uh, Basically, as you mentioned, the imperialist agenda for aggressive moves toward changing basically the Middle East and the region's geopolitical map is not hidden to anyone. I mean, everybody knows that the agenda again under Gaza, more settlements also in Palestine, um, uh, is based on that planning, and the reason they attacked, for example, Syria, the situation in Syria, the situation in Iraq, the situation in Lebanon, all are related to each other. We cannot separate those ones from each other. And as you mentioned, it was a very uh, from international diplomatic view, while you are in negotiation, and when you see something like that happening, the attack, how could you basically trust with the diplomatic relationships anymore? I mean, uh, the Trump's reaction to the war, and after the terror attacks and bombing Iran, the next day that it was excellent. It was a great job. I knew that. We were basically in complete connection with the Israel before the attack, and we are following this. And the threats that he made shows there was no sincere, basically sincere aim for United States to reach an agreement through the negotiations with Iran, and that is something that we need to end to it. We need a transparent, public, open, direct negotiations, and these should be basically very open to the world. That what they are talking about, Iran, basically, as you know, they sign NPT. They didn't, and based on basically the reports from Grossi and the agency, there was no way that they could be able to reach to nuclear weapon at this time. And it was very clear by announcing from Supreme Leader that they don't plan to have nuclear weapons. So based on all of those, this aggression was based on the agenda they have to change the geopolitical map in the region, and more aggressive plans of imperialists to take control of the resources, and changing, and especially giving a more important role to apartheid regime of Israel in the region, and that is very, very dangerous. And that is why we want the basically the solidarity from everywhere in the world for those peace movements, actually environmentalists, because it won't impact only, for example, Iran. It could impact the other countries from environmental point of view as well. It is very, very tough situation. And the war could expand very quickly. That is something that we need to understand. And if it goes that way, then it won't be easy to control that. We need to consider this as well. So all of those threats that Trump is making right now, the people in the world with their movement should give a very strong response to this. And as we see during the recent days, we saw that the rallies actually from all over the world, in Europe, in North America, in different cities of the US as well as Canada, we are seeing that they are organizing anti-war and peace rallies. No war with Iran. Ceasefire now, ceasefire in Gaza. Stop basically Israel's actions. We need to do something now, and it needs a very big, basically a very big response, a very powerful, big response from the peace movement all around the world.
Comrade Bizat, thank you so much for that. For my whole life, it seems, I think it's true actually, for my whole life, the United States has been belligerent towards Iran, and the Middle East more generally. And Iran has suffered under tremendous sanctions that have hurt the working class of Iran considerably. And so I'm just wondering, you know, in your joint statement, in Tudeh's joint statement with the Communist Party of Israel, as you were just saying, the responsibility for this is placed squarely at the foot of imperialist ambitions of the United States vis-a-vis Israel. And I have struggled because it's been so long, it's been 40, 50 years now, of it seems this belligerence. What is the final end game? What does redrawing the map actually look like? Especially if, as you say, there's a possibility of this war expanding. Like, it seems very you know uncontrollable. What is it that
Yes.
the imperialists are trying to gain from this? Because it precisely does seem so uncontrollable.
This is very, I mean, if you think logically, it was the big risk that imperialists are taking through Trump, obviously. And yeah, it could, I don't know what they think, how far they want to go, but it is pretty dangerous. It is pretty dangerous, especially based on uh, basically the recent statements that we've got from China and Russia. So people, they could interfere. I mean, it is not easy to think that what will happen after that. So it is very, very dangerous situation, and we need to do whatever we have in our hands to be able to stop this situation and change it. And that needs a very basically organized movement, peace movement all around the world, with the progressive unions and democratic forces uh, to organize this movement. And that is, we shouldn't wait. It is we should do it now. Now is late. That is what I'm trying to say. It is very, very dangerous. Thanks, comrades.
Yes, no, for sure. It is. It's extremely dangerous. And I know that you are maybe not able to stay with us for the entire show, but before you go, if I could ask one more question, um, if you have any advice, for what people in the United States, what we might be able to do to improve the peace movement, because it feels like, especially with the genocide in Gaza, people have been protesting, people have been doing occupations, people have been calling their Congress representatives, what is it that we can do to help build the peace movement to try and put a stop to this before it gets out of control?
As you mentioned, that's very important. For example, Labor for Palestine was a very important organization that we are having in Canada right now as well. So the sanctions towards, we need to reach also to UN associations as well. I mean, this is important that we denounce all of the actions of Israel very openly in the UN. We send letters. We actually, for example, there will be a Security Council meeting, I believe today, and there should be, as much as we can, there should be demonstration asking UN Security Council to do actions. We need to, through the union organization, different association, we need to actually, I mean, issue statements against this war, uh, promoting the ceasefire now, and especially related to Gaza and Palestine, what overall in the region is basically occurring now. So that is, we need to do whatever we were doing, and but we need to expand our activities. We need to try to expand that. We need to make sure that also it has a good coverage in social media as well. We need to make sure that we could be able, even with to be able to connect with mass media as well, to uh, to actually to show that the peace movement is strong and the people united. cannot be defeated. That is the main an important slogan that we need to tell, we need to say.
Thank you so much, Comrade Bazad. Like I said, it's been an incredible honor for us all to have you on the show this week, and we really do appreciate you taking the time. All
Thank you.
solidarity, of course. Um,
Thank you for
thank
this.
you. So
Thank you.
now we will be joined by Anita, who will be participating in the rest of the show. We're just going to go through the different panelists here and ask a couple of questions. First of all, panelists, let's start with Henry. What do you think about what Comrade Bazad just said, especially as to how this conflagration started? Is it kind of came out of nowhere? What is it that you think happened to start this? Oh, Henry, you're muted.
Not on my side.
Okay, now we can hear you now. We can hear you now, Henry.
Thank you. Somebody did something. I don't really think this came out of nowhere. I think this has been planned for a long time. Israel has been bombing Iran. The United States has been threatening Iran. The United States has imposed sanctions on Iran. The effort of the United States to eliminate Iran as a sovereign country has been going on since 1979. The history of U.S. relations with Iran goes even earlier, when the United States government, the CIA, overthrew a democratically elected Iranian government in 1953 in order to get Iran's oil, and installed the Shah, a dictator who was there until the people of Iran threw him out in 1979. And then the United States supported and endorsed and encouraged Saddam Hussein in Iraq to invade Iran, to overthrow that revolution of 1979. So this has been going on. This has been going on for 75, 80 years. So the most recent period, what we've seen is that Iran has supported the Palestinians. It has supported the Lebanese. It has supported the people of Yemen. And this is not acceptable to the United States and its imperial project. What Israel is, what and Netanyahu is doing, is trying to take extra steps now, with Iran being weak, with Hezbollah being silenced, with Syria having been overthrown and replaced by a government that's led by an Al-Qaeda figure that the United States helped set up and respects. This whole thing is, um, the exact details not predictable, but the overall arc is predictable. So that I think that to me is what's going on. I think Comrade Bazad is right that what we need at this point is massive support, first of all, to stop bombing Iran. That is, to stop Israel from bombing Iran. And I think that will have support. And the second thing, which is harder, is for the U.S. to stop supporting Israel. The U.S. and its European allies primarily to stop supporting Israel. That's a little bit harder, but we have to make that demand too. And then we have to look to our allies in the peace movement, certainly, civil rights, the labor movement, the Muslim population, and the national organizations in the U.S. and elsewhere, the environmentalist allies, to try to stop this insanity. I think Comrade Bazad is correct. If this expands, if this war expands, there's no telling where it could go. We know that Israel has nuclear weapons, and for it to say to Iran, you can't even develop nuclear power, is such incredible hypocrisy. I have a term which I call chutzpocracy. It's beyond hypocrisy. It's chutzpah and
Great.
hypocrisy. So I think that um, what we have to look at, and I'll stop, but I think it's worth talking about how Iran and Israel fit into a global uh, imperialist project, because that's much bigger and even more dangerous. But let me stop.
No, for sure, Henry. Thank you for your contribution. Anita, thank you again for joining us halfway or a little bit more through the show. I know that you use TikTok, and I don't know if you get the same videos that I get, but I've been getting a lot of videos of soldiers who are opening up their meal boxes and they're seeing lobster and steak and they're seeing all this really delicious food and they're saying, "Oh no, you're about to go to war food." But at the same time, I sort of watched from afar the Trump's military parade, and it was a total flop. He's not very popular right now in the United States. Between you could see this really depressing parade that he threw for his birthday, like the maniac that he is. But then also him sending in the Marines and the National Guard into Los Angeles. My thinking is, how does he think he's gonna get away with pulling off a war of this scope? When he is so unpopular. And I thought it was great. Hadash, the Popular Front in Israel, they released a meme that said something in Hebrew, Arabic, English, and Persian, and it said, Farsi, and it said, "Agreements save lives, wars save dictators." And so I'm just wondering, like, what's the logic in this?
Yeah, I don't know what the logic is, except, well, what Comrade Bizad was saying, and that is the imperialist project in the world is really to increase Israel's power in the region, and it's just so dangerous. I think Iran was at a weaker point. That's what everyone is admitting to when they say the quiet thing out loud. That's why it was so urgent. Al Jazeera pointed out this morning that Bibi Netanyahu has been saying for 32 years that Iran's on the brink of a nuclear bomb development. So that really isn't what's happening here. So I think I'm so glad we had him on for his firsthand understanding and really tying together the Palestinian situation as well. So I agree with Jason there that Zionism will fall in our lifetimes. I hope so, but Iran has been on the side of maybe not always doing exactly the way the tactics that we might agree with, but on the side of people's struggles. And what I've been seeing on TikTok actually are Iranians who are just saying, we don't want this. We don't want this. And Iranian people are just warm, very close-knit society. And what Comrade Bazad said about communal aid didn't surprise me. It's just they are going to gather together and support each other. But we have to do what Henry is saying, and Henry is working on planning a big peace conference this year. But all year we're going to be working on gathering forces for the movement for peace in the world, and the U.S. part in that is very important because we are here in the belly of the beast. So thanks for having me, Taryn.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ben, I think that you're the youngest person on the show today, and so I'm wondering if you can speak on behalf of the youth. Do you think that the youth is ready to go out and die for Zionism and imperialism and die in the mountains of Iran for Donald Trump's war profits? Like, where do you think the youth are at right now? Is that something people are rearing to go on? It didn't seem like even Iraq was very popular. Afghanistan certainly not, but Iran, it seems like you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, and it doesn't matter how much lobster and steak you can produce. I don't know how. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I am an old youth, but I guess I'm still a youth. But yeah, I mean, as many people have said, I think Taryn, as you said so well, our entire lives, the U.S. has been trying to control the Middle East, and longer than that. I mean, the U.S. picked up this imperialist project from Britain, as is well known, and as this Comrade Bazad spoke to, and it wasn't popular when Bush tried to do it. When I was in high school, and I had cousins who went to Iraq, and I mean, we were all out protesting that. It's even less popular now. Common Dreams just published a report whereby over half of Trump supporters don't want to go to war in Iran. So I think, the meme that you quoted, I mean, that's so apt. War saves dictators. I mean, why did Netanyahu do this now? Well, there was a resurgence of the peace movement in Israel. There was a resurgence of the Refusnik movement in Israel. The Wall Street Journal just put out an article pointing out that Israel's going to run out of those interceptor rockets, and we don't have too many more to supply them. So it's pretty suicidal on Netanyahu's part. Not like we care too much about that. I wish he was in The Hague and all of the entire administration, but Americans are even less in favor of this. And the need to regrow, we're in a kind of 11th hour moment, as Comrade Bazad said, the need to regrow that anti-war movement that was there. Again, when I was in high school, that was one of the biggest movements I think I've ever been a part of. And it had demands: close Guantanamo, get rid of the Patriot Act. It kind of disintegrated under Obama, and we never really got it back. And that was a huge mistake and a huge problem, because now we see Trump using Guantanamo to deport immigrants. We see this drive for war, the neocons that a majority of Americans hate and despise. Remember, war powers are supposed to reside in the Congress. And when was the last time Congress, we had a constitutionally declared war? Was, World War II. So, the neocons who want, as Henry was saying, it's so much bigger than the Middle East, although it starts there. It's also about Marco Rubio wants war with China. And the American people don't want any of this. And so we need a mass peace movement the size of the anti-nuclear movement, one of the biggest movements in the history of the United States. We need a mass movement to put a stop to militarism. We spend $1 trillion a year federal budget. Half of it goes to the war machine. No Americans want that. There were Americans who were tricked into thinking Trump was going to be a peace candidate. How's that working out? But we need that mass movement to put a stop to the U.S. empire, which is ultimately at the root of this. The far-right Zionist movement is one of many fascist nationalist movements we sponsor worldwide. After the Soviet Union fell and before, so we could gain complete global hegemony. The American people don't want any of this and stand in full solidarity with the people of Iran.
Henry, I think Ben kind of squarely hit it, on the head there, but I do want to point out that something that's also unprecedented in my lifetime is that there seems to be a complete lack of popular support for Israel and for Zionism in this country than has ever been during my lifetime, at least. That the movement seems to have gone very quickly to where most Democrats don't, agree with what's going on in Israel with the apartheid state. Where even, Donald Trump supporters don't agree with what's going on. Folks are struggling to make ends meet here, and yet we can see this just sort of endless flow of money and support to Israel. At the same time, though, Trump is in office now, and when we're faced with these, ICE raids, with these DEI rollbacks, these attacks against women and trans people, do you feel like this has drawn attention away from this burgeoning peace movement? How is it that we can build a peace movement when it seems like we're trying to put out fires everywhere we look? I think there was an expression I heard a couple years ago in the peace movement where it was sort of, stop the wars at home and abroad. How is it that we can connect ICE raids and attacks against women and trans people and attacks against DEI to what's going on right now in the Middle East to sort of make that case to the working class here?
Well, I think you're absolutely right that there are so many fires that need to be put out. And what we keep in mind as anti-imperialists and understanding where imperialism is coming from, it's coming from the top reaches of the corporate oligarchs and the corporate monopolies, mainly in this country. And the institutions and the people who run those institutions have one thing on their mind, which is to monopolize profits wherever they can get them and to expand their control and reach, to prevent competitors. The biggest competitor to the United States is China. And what's going on in the Middle East is clearly a step in the effort to contain China, to prevent China from developing its economy, to improving the lives of people in China, to stop China's international policy of helping other countries develop. What's going on in the Middle East? China gets oil from Iran. The United States would like to control that and be able to cut it off anytime it wants. It can't do that now. The United States would like to be able to maintain its monopoly on international financial exchanges through the US dollar. And Iran and even some US allies and many countries are starting to trade in the Chinese currency, the yuan, the renminbi. The United States does not want to see this. The corporations don't want to see this. In fact, it's quite a serious threat to the United States. The US has a huge debt which it could not pay. It could not deal with. It could not have created without using the US dollar, having countries around the world use the US dollar. So Iran, being a sovereign country, is not acceptable to the imperialists. But I want to come back to the peace movement and in the United States and all of these fires that are going on. So the threats to immigrants, we should be asking why people are migrating to the United States, and look at that, because in many cases it's because the United States has overthrown their progressive governments. It has, because the United States financial institutions and corporations are taking over their finances or preventing them from developing, preventing them from using their own resources, one country after another. So that's one of the things we have to look at. So the peace movement broadly has to understand that the immigrants' rights movement is intimately connected to peace and stopping the imperialist project. You know, the attacks that Trump is making on the trans community, on the African American community, on the Native American community, on women, on all of these communities, these are ways to divide us from each other so that we do not support each other and fight together against what is basically the requirements of maintaining an empire. If we, as Bezod said, the people united are invincible, but they have to be united. And how do we do that? That's the big question. And I think we have to do that one conversation at a time, one rally at a time. We have to be joining each other's rallies. We have to be organizationally speaking to each other. There's legislation in Congress that calls on the United States to not to get directly involved in the war on Iran, and not to pull Israel's irons out of the fire. Obviously, the United States is very involved. Hellfire missiles, 300 Hellfire missiles, Trump sent to Israel before it attacked Iran. As Comrade said, Trump knew fully well what was going on. He was doing this. It's not that Israel controls the United States. The United States uses Israel. The Israelis are, like the Iranians, pawns in a global. It's not a chess game. It's really a fight to maintain the U.S. unipolar hegemony over the world, and it's slowly losing that. It's slowly losing that with BRICS, with the other countries that are trying to pull away from U.S. control all around the world. And Iran was very much a part of that. Iran supported Cuba. It supported Venezuela, Nicaragua, all of the demons the United States has created because they don't accept the U.S. telling them what to do. People want their own sovereignty, and people in this country. So we have to find ways of supporting with increasing calls on our time, and from all of these different battles, we have to find ways of doing it. Now, to just come back to what happened on June 14th, the No King's Day, compared to the military parade, millions of people out in the streets. We have to go to those. But we have to bring peace into those because they're not automatically there. We have to bring the whole issue of peace and unifying the people. Working with the trade unions have taken already stands against Israelis' slaughter of Palestinians. These are all things that unify us. There's a tremendous amount of education that needs to be done, a lot of it one-on-one. We have to have conversations. We have to open up the conversations with people, with organizations that will be allies once the light goes off and that they see the connection, make those connections.
For sure, yeah. And I think it was great. There was an expanded board meeting this week, and a lot of the report backs from the No King's Day indicated that peace was actually something that was raised at a lot of locations, that lots of people were focusing more on peace, which I think is a really positive development. Anita, I kind of want to ask you the same question. How is it that we can combine, what's going on here domestically when people are so concerned about what they're going to eat, how they're going to afford health care, how they're going to afford childcare, et cetera, whether or not their loved ones are going to be, snatched off the street by secret police and thrown into a gulag in El Salvador, with what's going on in Iran, where many Americans probably haven't followed what's been going on in Iran for their entire lives. How can we make these connections and sell it, or not sell it, but teach people, as Henry was saying, that this is really the same struggle, the same fight.
Or people may be picked up by vigilantes posing as police. I think this is the most dangerous summer that we're looking at, with people using violence against people on the streets, and these ICE agents with their complete camouflage. It's just very dangerous. I think I really agree with Henry that these big national demonstrations are really worth coming out for. We had a very good No Kings rally here in Columbus, of course, but and I also think that veterans have a special role to play here. We've seen Veterans for Peace, for example, and other veterans organizations get involved, and they're making these connections with showing military members of the military who might be called on to do things that are actually illegal, giving them ways to find out whether they have to obey orders that may be illegal. So we're really connecting up that deployment of forces on the streets of Los Angeles to bombing Iran just because it might look good on Fox News. No matter what horrors it will unleash on the ground, and serving Netanyahu's interests. And I do think Netanyahu is more than just a pawn of the United States. I think I want to give the Israeli government some agency here. They are taking steps to keep themselves in power in Israel. So they're working on their domestic side as well. So I think Henry's right. Unity is what we really need. We need to recognize the interconnection of all of these struggles, and make sure we're standing up for each other's rights going forward. I think that's the best we can do, and really emphasizing peace. We're here in Columbus. We're picketing ICE headquarters every Tuesday afternoon, and just talking to people and showing our signs to the community. And we think we can keep that up. There's some places, I think in Los Angeles, I understand there's something going on every day. So there is a chance to bring those struggles together in a situation like that.
Thank you, Anita. It's great to hear that you all are doing those weekly pickets in front of ICE. Hats off to you. Ben, how are we going to do this? What are the practical ways that we can marry the war at home to the war abroad and convince people to fight on one front against both?
Well, yeah, I think that is the question. I think the answer, in a way, lies in the popular consciousness that's already there. So I think that there's just a massive organizing job. I mean, that's not just what we need to do, but so much of the consciousness is already there. And I think, we on the left, need to remember that again, I have relatives in rural New England, very, very far from some of the sites of the Trump repression. And, there's a lot of that, let's say, libertarian sentiment out there, but it's all anti-war. I mean, it's confused on the economy. There's a lot of things it's confused on, but we need to be able to connect to make people see. But even in places like rural Vermont, ICE is active and snatching people off the street, and taking away farm workers. And, at a certain point, the racist rhetoric intersects with reality of people's lives. And people see that, there isn't that, that bad immigrant over there. It's really the guy down the street that you've worked with your whole life. And I think that's a huge opening. I think that the fascistic repression that Trump's unleashing everywhere in the cities, in rural areas, is really starting to sour, and there's a real opportunity. I mean, the lack of turnout for No King's Day, I think, was a huge sign, of where people are at, and just look at look at Tim Kaine. I mean, no hero, no progressive hero introduced a resolution to say that if we're going to go to war with Iran, it has to be done constitutionally. So there's an enormous opening here to make a very, very broad front against war and against fascism. I think it's a question, on the left, can we do it? Can we get offline and into the streets? Can we strengthen those organizations? Do what Anita's talking about. That's wonderful. I mean, we used to do that again during anti-Iraq war. We pick at do counter recruitment work, do recruitment. Do work within veterans organization. We have veterans in the party. I mean, on the left, there's About Face. There's there was the Vietnam Vets Against the War. There's a huge, long tradition of veterans taking the lead in opposing imperialist war, and always bringing, for us at least, the communist plus of consciousness raising about racism, about the need to struggle against racism and sexism and chauvinisms of all kind. But so many of the pieces are there. I think we really have to pick up those pieces and put them together. So I'm looking forward to the peace conference that we're hosting, and I'm looking forward to the attempt to rebuild, finally, a sustainable national peace movement that can cut the war budget, which is a wildly popular position. It's a majoritarian position. So I think it's on us to make use of that. That's my opinion.
Well said, Ben. I like that. It runs into the reality of people's everyday lives, and eventually people are going to have to confront it. It's up to us to sort of put that knowledge and that consciousness into people's hands so they understand what to do with that. And I'll let you have the last word. Thank you so much to the panel for joining us today. Thank you so much to our comrades in the Tudeh Party, and all solidarity to our comrades in both the Tudeh Party and also the Communist Party of Israel right now. We, hope that everybody's family members are okay, and that, the struggle will continue on a worldwide scale as we try our very best, because it's necessary to stop what it is that the imperialists want to push on us. So thank you very much, comrades, again. And until next week, stay strong, stay safe, and stay